Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the TraxionGG podcast, where we talk about racing games, esports and sim racing. Joining us today is Jarno Opmeer. He is a two-time back-to-back F1 Esports Series Pro, that's a lot to say, champion. But not only that, he won the eRock, or the eRace of Champions, in Sweden earlier this year, and recently wrapped up the PSGL F1 League racing competition as well to boot. Jarno's career isn't the traditional route, actually, as it happens. He's a three-time national Dutch karting champion. He also then raced in Formula 4 and Formula Renault, part of the Renault Academy. But since then, he's 100% focused on sim racing. With him competing in the Formula Pro series using the rFactor 2 platform for the first time, which is live on TraxionGG, don't miss a race, quick plug. We thought it was a great time to speak to him about adapting to this new series, his recent sim racing exploits and victories, and also what it's like to balance sim racer life with content creation, as he has a strong social media, YouTube and Twitch following, and creates regular live streams and videos for his engaged audience. So, without further ado, here's what it takes to become one of the world's best sim racing drivers and also one of the most popular content creators on the TraxionGG podcast. So Jarno, welcome to the Traxion podcast. How are you today?
Thank you, I'm very good. Nice weather outside, so can be better.
Brilliant. Unfortunately, we're going to keep you inside for about half an hour to talk about this, but I really appreciate your time.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Are you doing anything in particular today? Any practice, training, or?
I'm heading back home today. I've been in Brackley for 3 weeks to prepare for Formula Pro and some other stuff. So yeah, been inside a lot in the esports facility. So
cool. All right. Well, I think we'll touch upon Formula Pro and what you've been doing recently in a bit. But I would like to talk about your recent successes in esports as well. And in particular, I think at the start of the year, I just want to say congratulations for winning the eRock. For those who aren't aware, the eRace of Champions sister event, which was in the middle of nowhere in Sweden. Looked a bit cold. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was very cold. I think at some point it was minus 25. So luckily the sim races were inside. But
yeah, that was a good plus point you had there.
Yeah, nice and warm with some hot chocolate milk. But yeah, that was amazing. I was lucky to get voted there because I missed the first qualifier, and I don't think I had time to do the second one for I think because of the 24-hour Le Mans, but I'm not sure. And then I got there and I lacked a bit of practice compared to Lucas and James, so I was struggling in the practice day. But then for some reason during the race day I was very quick compared to the other guys, which I'm still to this day a bit confused by, but it was just enough. So
yeah, that's brilliant. And again, just for those who don't know, it was 4 drivers and you won the virtual competition, which then meant you got to qualify alongside Lucas Blakely for like the Nations Cup with the real world vehicles the next day. But part of your assessment was also to drive with the Polaris vehicles on the frozen ice track. And in that you were given like the maximum score by, was it Terry Grant and Oliver and Petter Solberg?
Yeah.
What was it like to get feedback from some maestros like that? That actually your driving outside of the sim was also amazing.
Yeah, of course they are very good on the off-road stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could already see them drive around a bit the days before as they were practicing in the different cars. So I could pick up a few things before I was heading into it myself. Luckily, I also had some practice on a big ice lake a few kilometers away.
Interesting.
So it was not the same car. We had very little practice in the cars we had to race in. But yeah, that made it even more challenging considering none of us had ever raced on ice. So yeah, it was had to adapt really fast. Went well. Same for Lucas, who also did amazing. Yeah. Considering he'd never raced in a Formula car, for example, although this is completely different, can't really take your experience from the real road racing to drive on ice. But
I was going to ask actually, but you've usurped me. You've got there before me, because I was going to say, it's well known. I think you started karting, was it at like age 4, and then sort of seriously from like the age of 7, and you did Formula 4 and Formula Renault. So none of that experience helped on the ice, no?
Of course, the vehicle dynamics you learn in Formula racing helps a little bit. But yeah, in the end of the day, it's something completely new, something no one has done, and I think that's why you saw Lucas beating Sebastian Vettel, because it's like everyone is equal at that point. No one has had any practice. So that made it very tough also for a four-time F1 world champion.
Yeah, it just goes to show that in the right scenario, in the right conditions, you can be quicker. And just one final thing on that. The virtual aspect or the sim aspect of that competition was using like a modified version of Assetto Corsa with like rallycross cars on ice, which I think a lot of people would know you for your single-seater exploits. But I believe you're a dab hand at Assetto Corsa anyway, right? You know, you have a good experience on that platform?
Yeah, I've done quite a lot of Assetto Corsa just for fun.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I used to do it on PlayStation a lot. And I just tried to beat my own time in an F1 2013 car, I think it was. Right. Just time after time and just trying to change the setup. So that way I think I learned the game pretty well. And then, yeah, we had to do the qualifiers on that game as well. Same track actually as we did the final one. So that helped a little bit. But yeah, it was a really, really tough car, really tough condition. Of course, very low grip. But yeah, it was weird to drive. But
you certainly managed it. Yeah, exactly. So I suppose moving away from what you're best known for, if that's fair to say, is obviously winning 2 F1 Esports Series Pro championships back to back. The second of which for Mercedes-AMG Petronas. Before we dive into that particular competition and driving, how did the relationship between you and Mercedes come about? Because obviously you won with Alfa Romeo and then switched teams.
Yeah, so I signed for Veloce, I think back in 2020. That way I was linked to Alfa Romeo, and in 2021 Veloce and Mercedes decided to start a partnership, and that's how I ended up at Mercedes. So that's how I got to drive for Mercedes at the start of 2021.
Yeah. Was there any extra pressure at all to sign for? Obviously, behind the scenes, it might have been via Veloce, right? But to represent the team that was dominating so many years in a row, did that make you feel better, or did it put any pressure on you at all?
Not really. I knew I had won the World Championship the year before, so
I suppose that helps.
Yeah, I already done what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that released a bit of pressure, and I think halfway into last year, I felt like I was not gonna win the championship anymore, as we just kept finishing like lower part of the top 10, and then I think all pressure fell away. I was like, I'm not gonna win anymore, and then that was the moment when I finally started performing again and got back really fast in the championship. So
yeah, so the 2021 season you took 4 wins, and the title did go down to the final race, and your main rival was Freddie Rasmussen, right, for Red Bull. He qualified 10th and you were able to manage it and finish 4th. Even though he won the race, you took the title. It was a really impressive season, you were very consistent, and also the speed to win races. What was it like from your point of view? How would you summarize your season? Obviously, you were the world champion, but if you were to give yourself a score out of 10 for your year, was it the best one you've had so far?
It's tough to say. I think we struggled on a few subjects. One of it was qualifying, and that's super important. So if I had to give myself a rating for qualifying, it would probably be 5 out of 10. If I had to give my rating for races, it would probably be 9 out of 10.
So you see, people listening, a world champion, there's still room for improvement. There's always space, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think if anything, 2020 I was driving better. Might feel that way because maybe I improved in the meantime and gotten a little bit faster, so the standard is maybe a little bit higher. But still, I think 2020 I got a few more pole positions, a little bit more consistent in qualifying, and yeah, just had to fight from the back a lot less in 2020.
Yeah, but it made the 2021 season more interesting to watch as a spectator. So thanks.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, and a championship is a championship at the end of the day. What sort of determination does it take to win and consistently be fighting in a very, very competitive championship?
spending a lot of hours in the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many?
Too many. At some point, I think we got here 4 weeks before the first F1 Esports event, and basically practiced every day. Took a few days off in between events at some point because just simply had to, for my own sanity. But yeah, it was just almost non-stop practice because basically from the first event on we struggled in qualifying until I think the last event was a little bit better consistency wise. So yeah, that took very long. So the practice was definitely worth it, as otherwise simply we would have not won. So
it goes to show that hard work and determination, it's not just chance. You have to work very hard to get in that position, to have all the right setups and the strategies in place and everything practice, right? And you've also it's not just that year, you've obviously been playing the Formula One games at a seriously competitive level for several years, right? So do you think it's a culmination of all this experience on top of the practice for that particular event?
Yeah, exactly. I think I tried to qualify for F1 Esports since 2018, and then I got obviously signed to Renault for 2019, which was my first year. Looking back, I think it was a pretty good year to join, as I think the level was increased massively for 2020, and I was definitely not on the pace for 2019, but I think it helped a little bit that the quality of the grid was lower. So 2019 was very much a learning season, even though I did manage to bring it till the final event for the championship, but I think I was nowhere near the level of Freddie, David, and Danny Bresnay, for example. So I think I'm much closer now. So
yeah. Do you think league racing helps keep you sharp as well? By recording this, and you've just wrapped up the PSGL title, so another congratulations for that. In fairly dominant fashion this year, I would say. Do you think that also helps you stay race sharp alongside the countless laps?
Yeah, definitely. I've always done league racing. I noticed Brendan won his titles when he was still league racing a lot. I never really understood why he stopped, as I noticed that once he stopped, he started performing worse simply. So I never really understood why drivers were stopping with league racing, as first of all, it's a lot of fun. It's not too serious, and at the same time it's a little bit of practice. So I will continue doing it. I like doing it. Nothing too serious, although at some point
it is a bit, because there are rules and there's a very competitive grid. There's live broadcasts that are very popular, so it's very serious, Jarno. How would you like to see F1 esports in general evolve? You know, it's very, very popular, but there's always scope to improve. What do you think could be the main elements that could take it onto another level?
A few things I would like to see. I don't think they will happen this year. I think something like weekly races would be fun. Just one race per week instead of one event randomly in 2 or 4 weeks. I think this way people will watch it more on a regular basis. It's the same with league racing. People can just tune in every day of the week at the same time. And this way it becomes a weekly thing and it's a lot easier to follow. So I think that's something F1 Esports could learn from league racing, weekly races. So same for the race distance. I think 50% would just be the perfect distance. Of course, it evolved from 25 to 35, which is interesting because it was finally something different. But yeah, I think 50% is just the right touch, just the right distance, not too long. I think 100% would be way too long, and you'll just have to wait so long until something happens. As even in league racing, sometimes you're just waiting to strike in the last lap. It's hard to say what else. It's of course you have to try some changes and see if they work or not. I think something that will be interesting is if F1 Esports can become something similar as F1 is for the automotive industry. If F1 Esports can be something for sim racing or the gaming industry, that will be interesting. Now, of course, we're all driving on similar rigs. If one team decides to make their own, I think that could be interesting, of course.
That'd be good. Yeah, some manufacturer competition for like the wheelbases and stuff. That'd be interesting. I'm with you on the calendar, because sometimes there might be 2 races in an evening. Sometimes there might be 1. Sometimes there might be 2 days back to back. If it was just a bit more spread out, it would certainly be easier for me to follow anyway. That's a selfish viewpoint, but I do agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of a different series then, so this year we're speaking after the first round of the Formula Pro Series. This is in R Factor 2, and it's using like a fictional single-seater with a naturally aspirated V10 and push-to-pass. And that's also a very competitive series. Before we speak about the first race, which didn't quite go to plan, how were you finding the preparation, the practice, and driving those cars?
Very hard. It's not an easy car, and my teammate is of course the champion of last year, so it's not easy to beat him, as he's incredibly fast. And to be honest, I have not been faster a single time so far in the preparation. So it's been tough. A lot of times I was getting annoyed.
Right. Yeah.
We've been preparing for quite a while, and I've just been lacking a little bit every single time. But yeah, it's a very hard car to drive, and I think you can see that as well. If you're watching the race, there are quite big gaps between the drivers. But I think first race I did pretty decent in qualifying. I was not too far off from my teammate. I think only like half a tenth. Quali didn't really go to plan. It was pretty hard, made a mistake. So could have been better in the end, but still I was pretty happy with starting off the season like that.
I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, because your teammate Bonnerhouse, he wasn't just the champion last year, he won every single race. And then also, you only qualified 1 position behind him. You were 5th on the grid. You were ahead of other drivers who already had a season's experience with this vehicle on this platform. So I thought it was an excellent performance. But then unfortunately you retired in the race. What happened there?
Unfortunately, I got disconnected after 5 laps.
Right.
I had the same issue just before you went into qualifying, so that's why I struggled a little bit in qualifying. Didn't have the right run up, but yeah, that's part of racing sometimes.
It definitely is part of sim racing sometimes. It's like a mechanical failure on a racetrack, and not ideal, but you can build from there. And like I say, you had very quick pace relative to the competition. So from the next round, you won't have the success ballast. So if I were placing some money on someone, it might just be on you, but we'll see. I don't want to put too much pressure on you there, but
yeah. I mean, if there's a race for it to happen, then I prefer it in the first race.
Of course.
And now I won't have ballast, of course, heading into Monza. So that's a little bit of an advantage. Of course, lost a lot of points with the DNF. My teammate Bono still managed to get up to P3. He was having issues as well.
Yep.
With shifting. I think there was a cable issue. So we hope we can start scoring some better points next race. So
yeah, well, we'll be watching, and for those who aren't aware of this particular series, it is live on the Traxion YouTube channel. It's also on Facebook and Twitch and Autosport.com's Facebook page. There's many places. We'll put the details in the description below. But there's like Donington Park and Laguna Seca, which are quite new to that platform coming up. So you're looking forward to trying, I suppose you're saying it's quite a difficult car to drive, but are you perhaps relishing the challenge of learning something new?
I definitely learned already a few new things. I'm really looking forward to Laguna and Donington, as no one has any experience on it. Yeah, and it's also nice to just get off the F1 circuits for once, because driving enough of those in the past few years. So yeah, it's nice to race on Laguna and Donington. So I can't wait to go to those.
Yeah. You were on the entry list. Well, you did technically take part in the 24 hours of Le Mans Virtual, but unfortunately there was a mechanical issue for your teammate and you didn't actually take behind the wheel, correct? During the race?
Yeah. In the end, it was only Danny Juncadella who was racing. I think we had good pace, as we were, I think, only 20-30 seconds behind the leader at a point. We decided to start off with Danny, as he was slightly slower than us, and basically we wanted to come back later in the race. Driving in the night is a little bit harder, so we would have had a good shot at the win. But of course, you need to finish the 24 hours. It's not a 3 hours of Le Mans. So it is what it is.
Would you like to compete in something like that again? Let's say next year.
Yeah, definitely. I want to win as many esports titles as possible, whether it's Le Mans or F1 or V10 or Formula Pro. I like doing different kind of things. At some point it can be a lot, but that makes it challenging and a lot of fun as well. So
yeah, I just want to touch upon Formula E. You finished 5th last year. There's qualifying time trials happening at the minute, and I believe the finals in London in July. Are you looking to compete this year?
I qualified in the first time trial, basically.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Together with Freddie Rasmussen, we were P1, P2. And last year was my first year again. I think by now I'm much better. I think I showed in the time trial that last year Freddie won, and very often I was around half a second back in qualifying, and now I showed that I'm basically on his pace. So a lot of other R-Factor drivers are going to chase us, of course, as that's their home platform.
Yeah.
But of course, that Formula E final in London is going to be completely different. A LAN event that everyone has to drive on equipment they're not used to. So that's going to be very hard. But I'm happy to take on the challenge.
Yeah, and there's some good prizes up for grabs there and something to aim for. And I believe it's a test in the actual Gen 2 car is potentially there, isn't it? So I feel like we've talked a lot about like the serious sim racing, like the competitions, right? But also you have this very, very popular YouTube channel and social media presence. And we'll put links in the description, of course, but I wanted to ask you, how do you come up with new ideas for content? And how do you find time to make and sort of host videos and voiceover videos and do their driving and then also practice for sim racing? Is it quite difficult to balance it all?
It is. That's why very often I spend way too much time in this factory. Honestly, it's not really an issue for me to come up with ideas because I know the game inside out and I know what YouTube videos people like to watch.
Yeah.
But it's very often the struggle of finding time to make the video, as of course my practice comes first, and then after that I can do content creation next to it. So I would say it's definitely not easy. Sometimes it's a complete nightmare, especially when the F1 esports season is coming around, because then basically you've got almost no time. So it's very important to schedule it right, not post too many videos too short in a row, and make sure that I've got enough margin to practice in times make content when I don't need to practice and not take too much time off on that.
Yeah, I mean they're brilliant and I really enjoy watching them. So thank you very much. So do keep it up. So you were mentioning earlier that you want to do all these several different esports events and stuff, and I was thinking, okay, the more you do, the less it's going to be less YouTube videos, but there's a balance there somewhere, isn't there? Hopefully. I was watching the first one you did of F1 22. Obviously, it's the preview build. I've been playing that as well. The team at Traxion have been playing it. How are you finding it so far?
I really like it. I think handling-wise, it's probably the best it's been. Simply like that. Physics-wise, they've improved a little bit. And, I think 2021 was a little bit of a step back, in my opinion, handling-wise from 2020. But I think definitely handling-wise, this is going to be the best F1 game there has been. So GG's to Cody's for that. At the moment I'm enjoying the driving a lot. It's not perfect, of course, yet, but no sim is perfect at the moment. So
also, this is an early build. It's not like we're talking like final finished code. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like there's a bit more oversteer, or have to manage the throttle a bit on certain corners to try and avoid spinning. But you're more experienced than I am, and you have a better judgment. But have you been experiencing that? No.
Definitely.
Brilliant.
No, I agree. It's once you lose the car, it's a lot harder to correct. But some other elements I like is that you can actually take The curbstone's a lot more just with your tire, and then once you go over it too far with the floor, that's when you start bottoming out, which was not the case last year. Last year, if you touched the curb with your tire, you tended to spin instantly. But then once you went over it with your entire floor, nothing happened, no bottoming. So that's a great improvement. And was very much needed because the way we were cutting some curves was not very realistic, but we just
the esports line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good. That's a fair comment. I just want to ask you specifically about the Miami layout. Not even necessarily in the game per se, but what did you think to the track and the first Formula One race there? Seeing as we're recording in the few days after it.
Yeah, I mean, the real life track, I think they struggled a little bit with overtaking offline, which I think was a bit of a shame. I personally really liked the track just to drive on. I tend to like new circuits anyway, so maybe I'm a bit biased on that one. But I loved it. But yeah, just a shame that there was absolutely no grip offline. And I think we saw more mistakes because of that, but I would rather just see normal hard battling.
Personally, for me, I cannot do that really twisty section under the turnpike. And I've seen your video and I'm like, what? How? But it's hours and experience, I think. And obviously then I've spent time writing. That's my excuse as well. But yeah, respect for managing to go through that tricky section with some speed and without crashing like me. So that's the difference between the pros and the amateurs, I suspect. Speaking of the real world Formula One as well, just touching upon that, are you in Brackley at the minute, and have you been practicing for Formula Pro, in the location of the real world Mercedes-AMG team?
Yes, for the past 3 weeks I've been here. Was mainly focusing on Formula Pro, but also doing some other things we had to do. So yeah, it's already a little bit of preparation for the new F1 Esports season as well.
All right.
But yeah, also just things that in general we can improve on, doing some photo shoots, just the regular stuff. Nice.
Yeah. Do you get to go there often, or is it once a year? Or
no, we come in quite often. I would say once per 2 months, more or less. It depends, of course, if we've got any races going on or if there's anything planned. So yeah, it really depends on that. Of course, during the F1 Esports season, we are here a lot, basically non-stop for 3 months. So yeah, right. We do spend a lot of time here.
Yeah, goodness me. Yeah, the F1 Esports season is intense, isn't it? You just reminded me of that. What does it feel like to be racing and competing for Mercedes-AMG in the team headquarters?
It's good because whenever you've got questions about something, there's usually always someone around that knows an answer, because there are more than enough very smart people around here that knows the answer.
Just a few. Yeah.
For me, very complicated questions, but for them, very easy questions. So that's very handy. Sometimes, to be honest, there's a little bit of distraction, which you need to learn to put away. And at the same time, there's also not really an escape if you're here a lot, because, well, you're in a factory. There's not a lot of stuff around Brackley. So it has its plus sides, but also its downsides. But in the end, for performance, it's definitely better.
Oh, that's fascinating. And to be around that aura of such a successful team surely can only benefit you and any other Mercedes Esports teammates. We've kept you for quite a while, so I don't want to keep this conversation going on further because I know you're very, very busy. But I've got one final question for you, Jarno, and that is, for lunch, do you still have, eggs, cheese on bread with some salmon?
I can't have it here because there's no way to make it. But whenever I'm home, I do have my toasted bread, and then I put sriracha on it with 3 eggs, ham, cheese, and salmon.
That sounds good. Oh, I forgot the ham. Yeah, damn. We'll have to get that recipe for you and from you and put it on the Traxion website. How to eat like a champion. Brilliant. That's the secret to success, people. Not that practice, right? It's all about the ham and egg and cheese. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, well, Jarno, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I hope our listeners have enjoyed it. And wish you all the best with Formula Pro, Formula One, Formula E, and probably a load of other things as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Well, thank you very much to Jarno for joining us today on the TraxionGG podcast. That just about covers us for this particular episode, but before I go, I would just like to say, if you'd like to watch Jarno race live in the Formula Pro Series, which is a really interesting championship with V10 powered, naturally aspirated single-seater cars, then tune into the TraxionGG YouTube channel, subscribe, the races are free, they're live, full production with commentary from John Munro, Lewis McGlade. It's really enjoyable. I'm slightly biased, but watch it and let me know what you think. Also, we have several more guests coming up in the future of the TraxionGG podcast. We've got a few more episodes left in this season, then we have a break, then we go back to another season. So please do follow and rate on Spotify, subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch and listen to the podcast each week on our YouTube channel, so you can leave a comment there on this one if you think Jarno's going to win Formula Pro Series or the next Formula 1 Esports Series. Let us know about that too. Please do visit the TraxionGG website because we cover the latest news, reviews, opinions, guides, help about racing games, sim racing and esports, and it's updated on a daily basis, so that is your central hub for everything in the world of sim racing. Otherwise, keep it pinned.